Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner Patrick Mooney. We are doing a crossover episode. Friar's Territory is with us. Kyle Glaser, the host of that show. It is a Cubs-Padres NLD or wild card matchup, NLDS, where it decides who goes to the NLDS. It is a team, two teams with a lot of star power. Probably the stars aren't right now, at least on the Cubs side. We'll talk to Kyle and get a better idea. The stars probably aren't playing at their peak right now for the Cubs. Kyle, let's get right to it. The Padres were built like with stars in mind. AJ Preller built this team and spent a lot of money on the stars. How is Manny Machado performing? Fernando Tatis. I mean, you could lump in Xander Bogaerts. There's a lot of big names on this team. Where are there? And you can throw in Dylan Cease, I guess. Let us know. Let Cubs fans know what's going on with the Padres right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned all those position players who are superstars. For most of the season, the Padres never really had them all performing well at the same time. We've seen over the past month, they're starting to find their stride. Fernando Tatis Jr. had 7 home runs in September. Jackson Merrill had 7 home runs in September. Manny Machado had 6 home runs in September, most of which came in the back half after he got some days off. So the Padres position players, frankly, after not doing a whole lot most of this year offensively, are starting to really click into gear. The stars that are really going to be the X factors for this Padres team in this series are actually on the pitching side. Nick Pivetta has been dominant all year. He will start game 1. He's been consistent. He's been durable, anything and everything you could ask for. The real X factors for this Padres team in the series are Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish, 2 stars on the pitching side who have not performed well at all this year, particularly on the road. Dylan Cease has been extremely inconsistent, and not just good start, bad start, good start, bad start. It's been 4 bad starts, good start, 3 bad starts, good start. And Yu Darvish, just to be blunt about it, has not been effective at all since coming off the IL with elbow inflammation. And right now, those guys are lined up to be the Padres, Cease in games 2, and if necessary, Darvish in game 3. So really the stars to focus on from the Padres perspective are actually on the starting pitching side as opposed to the guys in the lineup, who right now, for the most part, are actually doing what they're being paid to do.
So I'm just curious your thoughts. I just laughed when Kyle mentioned Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish. We can sort of never escape those ex-Cub storylines. How do you feel like the Cubs' rotation of out-getters, as counsel would say, are set up for this matchup here, now that Cade Horton's out for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I mean, you'd feel a lot better with Cade Horton. I don't think I'm stating anything controversial there. He has been everything that the Cubs wanted and more. I think that's their biggest question mark. How, can they handle this Padres offense? I know it hasn't been a dominant force all season long, but the Cubs starting pitching has not been firing on all cylinders lately, at least not their top 2 guys heading into this series. And that's likely going to be, we still don't know. We're recording on a Monday morning. Craig Counsell is, holding his cards close to his vest. He has not told us who's starting. If I were guessing, I'd say it's Matthew Boyd. It's probably Boyd or Shota Imanaga. Neither of those guys are clicking on all cylinders. Shota had a really rough start before his final start. 8 runs, multiple home runs. I believe, Patrick, we said on our last episode, 12 home runs in his last 6 starts. He's good at limiting damage, even though he gives up home runs. You have to hope that's the case with him. You have to hope that Matthew Boyd, I'm speaking from the Cubs side, the Cubs fans have to hope that Matthew Boyd looks more like his last start than the previous half dozen, because this guy went from all-star dominant. The Cubs would not be where they are right now without Matthew Boyd, but he has struggled in the second half, particularly early on in games. It seemed like he'd look like, oh no, this guy's not going to give you 2 innings, 3 innings, and then he'd have a bad first and then go 5 somehow. So if he eliminated that first inning rough patch his last time out. I don't know how they're like. I think that's probably, maybe we'll know right away when the game starts, Matthew Boyd has a good first inning. Can the Cubs handle these stars at the top of the Padres lineup? Maybe that'll be a big sign for everything that's going to happen afterwards, because I do think if you're looking at like a key matchup, it's probably the Padres star position player stars versus the Cubs. Right now, downtrodden starting pitching staff. I don't want to maybe that's a little hyperbolic, but with Cade Horton out and these guys not at the top of their game, if you're talking about who their hottest pitchers are, it's Jameson Taillon and Colin Ray as far as starters. So those guys aren't going to get the game one start, but that's just how it is right now. Colin Ray's looked amazing, but he's not going to be. I'm not sure if he gets a start in the wild card round.
Yeah, I think what's going to be really interesting, you talk about Shota Imanaga and Matthew Boyd and their struggles. The Padres offense has struggled badly against left-handed starters this year. And we saw that earlier in the season when Shota Imanaga and Matthew Boyd both had 2 starts against the Padres and carved them in both starts. So realistically, the way the Padres line up right now, especially with Ramon Laureano out for the first round after breaking a finger, that is a huge loss for the Padres because he was one of their few hitters who could really rake against lefties. 5 of the Padres' top 8 hitters are left-handed, and Fernando Tatis Jr. has struggled against lefties all year. So realistically, 6 of their 8 best hitters don't match up great against lefties. And we have seen some of the higher-end lefties have no trouble with them. Kyle Freeland, 8 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 10 Ks in Colorado. Andrew Abbott, 8 innings, 1 hit. Nick Lodolo, 5 innings, just cruising through them. So I do think that's going to be interesting because you're right. Imanaga and Boyd, when they're right, have shown the ability to pitch effectively, particularly against this Padres offense. But that was back in April. They're both very different pitchers now. I'm going to be really curious to see if the fact this Padres offense is clicking now and has heated up, if that will mitigate some of their season-long struggles against lefties, or if it's just going to be the same story as it has been all year.
Yeah, I love
Patrick. I'm curious. Sorry, I'm curious with you. Like, I think the fans that listen to our show know how I feel about this offense. I feel like they've turned a corner. Where are you at with this offense? That we talked about the Padres stars. The Cubs have some stars. We know that. Pete Crow Armstrong, maybe his offensive numbers don't look as great at the end of the season. He's a star. Kyle Tucker's back. He's healthy. How are you feeling about this offense? Where's your head at, and like, what are you seeing?
Not as optimistic as you are, Sahadev, but I would not go so far as to use an adjective like downtrodden to describe an area of a 92-win team. But yeah, I don't know. I think I've covered too many empty playoff losses at Wrigley Field, going back to 17, 18, 2020. There just hasn't been a whole lot of offense there, and Wrigley has not become a better park for hitters during that time. So, yeah, I think there were some nice signs over the weekend. I'm not sure how much of that was just a checked out Cardinals team that really, as an organization didn't invest much at all into this season. But yeah, for me, it's Pete Crow Armstrong. Just fascinated to see how he responds. I don't think anyone has a good answer for why Seiya Suzuki just sort of disappeared for months offensively. And like Kyle Tucker, I'm not that concerned about. I think he'll draw his walk. He'll get a single. I think he has that playoff experience. I think we are kind of at a point where we're going to be watching the last games of Kyle Tucker in a Cubs uniform. Not sure how many Cubs fans are going to be taking photos of that one, but this is a chance for him to totally kind of rewrite what was an awesome first half, a very disappointing second half. And then I don't know if anyone has more at stake this October financially than he does.
And it's interesting. You guys made the point that from the Cubs perspective, you feel like the key matchup is going to be the Cubs starters versus the Padres hitters. From the Padres perspective, it's the opposite. It's those Padres starters who, again, Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish have not pitched well, particularly on the road. Dylan Cease has a 5.58 ERA on the road. Yu Darvish's road ERA is over 7. I mean, it has been horrible on the road. Not bad, horrible. So you have those two guys who have been scuffling away from Petco Park. with an offense, like you guys said, that in the first half looked like one of the best offenses in baseball. And then PCA and Michael Busch and Seiya Suzuki all hit around the Mendoza line in the second half. We've seen a lot, Kyle Tucker obviously getting hurt. I'm going to be really curious to see, because I actually think what this series will come down to, at least from the Padres perspective, is which of these slumping standouts get hot at the right time. Is it the Padres pitchers in game 2 and potentially game 3? Or is it those Cubs sluggers who have struggled in the second half? I really think that's going to be the difference in this series.
I mean, you're probably right. If the different stars, the slumping stars step up, whichever side gets those slumping stars, and playoffs are weird. Who knows if some random guy like Moises Ballesteros has a big series, or Ryan or Hearn, who knows? Someone steps up, and we're talking about them for weeks. Let's take a quick break and come back and talk about two bullpens that I think are going to be really key in this series.
October baseball is here. The pressure's on, the lights are brighter, and with DraftKings Sportsbook, you're right there in the middle of every moonshot moment. DraftKings Sportsbook delivers the intensity of October with player props, live in-game betting, and odds that can change as fast as a ball flying over the fence. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get paid out $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Oh, if we talk about stars, the Cubs bullpen is not star laden. These aren't big names. But the Padres, on the other hand, they put together, a menacing bullpen. This was a focus of theirs. It's 3 games, potentially 3 games in a row. It's a little different without off days. Still feels like these guys are going to come in big, and especially with what you said about the starters for the Padres, Kyle, I have a feeling that we're going to see these relievers a lot. Jason Adams, the one that's down. What is going on with the Padres bullpen? Who should Cubs fans be scared of? Who may be scuffling right now? Like what's the status of this group, and how do you feel they're going to factor into this series?
Yeah, even with the loss of Jason Adams, this has been a lockdown bullpen. This is the best bullpen in baseball with room to spare. Pick your favorite statistic. ERA, opponent's average whip. The Padres are first, and first by a wide margin. And just when you watch them, it's a completely different animal from what you typically see. I will say from the Padres' perspective, this is partially why the starting pitching performance is so key. They don't need Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish to go throw 7 shutout innings. They just need to get 5 decent innings from them. Because once the bullpen is in the game, and I don't say this hyperbolically, the game is pretty much over. The Padres are 75-3 when leading after 8 innings this year. They're 75-5 when leading after 7. This is a team that just, if they have a lead, I mean, even the 6, I think they're 68-5. I mean, this is a team that if they're leading after 6, it really is game over. They have the ability to shorten games. It's Jeremiah Estrada, Adrian Morejon, Robert Suarez, and Mason Miller. Those are the core 4. Honestly, they all can get anyone out. Righty, lefty, fastball hitters, breaking ball hitters, doesn't matter. Those core 4 for the Padres can really beat anyone. Some of the supporting cast are not as dominant, the Yuki Matsuis of the world, the David Morgans of the world, but think about like David Morgan's unsung rookie. He still pumps 98 and had an ERA in the 3s, and that's their 6th best reliever. So from the Padres' perspective, the formula for their season success has been really simple. The starter keeps it close. The bullpen comes in and shuts down the opposing lineup, and the offense is able to scratch across a run or 2 or 3 late, and they win 4-3, 5-3. That's been the Padres' formula all year. So from the Cubs' perspective, they need to jump on those struggling Padres starters early, because if it becomes a battle at the bullpens, and as much as I love Daniel Palencia pumping 100, it's going to be edge Padres if it becomes a battle of the bullpen. So for the Cubs, they really got to jump on Cease and Darvish if they get the opportunity, and Pivetta too, but that one's going to be a little bit tougher.
Kyle, I was just curious about Mason Miller here because it's really interesting. You have a Cubs president, Jed Hoyer, who used to be the San Diego GM and who operates in almost the complete opposite fashion from AJ Preller. Now that goes for almost every executive walking in baseball right now.
Yeah.
But I was just curious, like how the Padres keep finding these prospects and emptying the farm system and can still go out and get a Mason Miller. And what is it like watching Mason Miller up close rather than just seeing like a clip on social media of him throwing 105?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, AJ Preller and his staff are probably the best staff in baseball at evaluating amateur talent. They have a full freight scouting staff in terms of highly paid scouts who have a long track record of being right. They don't cut corners with amateur scouting, and while they certainly use analytics to a degree, they really trust guys who have 20, 30 years of track records of being right in this game, and they pay for good scouts and they give them the resources they need to be successful. That's half the battle, having the right scouts and giving them all the resources. With that, they have shown the ability to find players who have big tools that even if maybe there's a shortcoming in their game, opposing teams are going to love it. They're going to see, oh wow, there's this 19-year-old with big tools. Think about the Yu Darvish trade, right? Obviously, Owen Casey, his big tool was power. But the Cubs were also, the Padres were also able to get him by trading guys like Reggie Preciado and Ismael Mina, who we know weren't really that good, but Preciado was huge and you could dream on the tools. Mina, could dream on the outfield. So that's kind of the Padres' MO. And because of that, they're able to just constantly reload and have all this young talent they can trade for. In terms of Mason Miller, I got to really appreciate him when he was in Oakland, just being a national writer at Baseball from America for so many years, including doing the Cubs system for a while. Got to see Miller coming up. I saw him as a starter too when he broke in. But watching him night in and night out in person, it's ridiculous because you're right. You see the social media clip of 102, but what you don't see is the slider is actually the better pitch. I mean, that thing is just absolutely insane. It's 101, 102, and here's a disgusting slider a hitter has no chance to hit. And the other part of it too is he doesn't walk guys. It's not like he's, this flamethrower who's all over the place. He had an immaculate inning already this year. I mean, it is pounding the strike zone with stuff guys just can't touch. And he can do it for more than an inning. We've seen him go inning in a third, inning in 2/3, even 2 innings. This is a relief weapon on par with, what Cubs fans will remember, what Andrew Miller was for the Indians back in 2016. This is every bit that level, just sheer dominance of a guy who, when he comes in the game, I mean, you're kind of done.
What you said before, I think Cubs fans need to kind of wrap their minds around. The Cubs are going to need to score early. There's no time to kind of settle into the game against these Padres. Look, the Cubs bullpen, I believe, is underrated. I think they have a solid group of key relievers. It's not comparable to the Padres because I don't really know if it's like the Padres bullpen is comparable to any team in baseball right now. I mean, Padres fans are going to be familiar with Drew Pomerantz. He's a great story for this season. I have no idea how he's been as good as he's been. Really effective lefty for the Cubs. He's been their second best lefty. That he's been great. He's probably be the best lefty on most teams, but Caleb Thielbar has been absolutely brilliant. Little bit of a hiccup at the end of the year here, a couple outings where he doesn't look as sharp. My guess is with this coaching staff, with him being a veteran, they'll figure out whatever's wrong. As long as he's healthy, as long as it's not a being tired issue, they'll lock it in. The guy that Padres fans may not realize is as good as he is Brad Keller, who's been the best reliever for this team. Just a revelation, non-roster invite. We see this every year with different teams all across baseball. Somebody that, converted starter like Brad Keller, a guy that, has struggled for years, whatever it may be, they turn into one of the best relievers in baseball. He does it all. He gets strikeouts. He doesn't walk guys. He gets ground balls, throws upper 90s. Great reliever. Just an amazing story. Andrew Kittredge is one of those guys that you just is like, this guy just goes out there and gets it done. Nothing's like spectacular. Nothing. You're not going to get any pitching ninja stuff out there, but he just goes out there. He's really calm. Seems to have a rubber arm. And Palencia is back. He's probably 5th on the totem pole right now. So it's a solid group. You got those 5 guys.
Yeah.
it's a perfectly acceptable group. It's just it seems like most teams I'd say the Cubs are pretty even with their bullpen. It looks like the Padres have such a huge advantage here.
Yeah, and again, it's less about the Cubs and all those guys you mentioned. Those are good pitchers. There's no question about it. It's just the Padres are on a different level. Like I said, pick your favorite statistic. The Padres are the best in baseball and best by a wide margin. Their bullpen ERA is nearly a half a run better than the runner-up team. I mean, it is a huge gap. Their opponent's average, their WHIP. I mean, it's not like a little bit. It's opponent average. I think it's like 15 points. I mean, it's a big gap, them and everyone else. But a fun fact about Andrew Kittredge: when his playing days are done, he will have a job as a coach as one of the best fungo hitters you have. So my first job was covering the High Desert Mavericks for the Victorville Daily Press, covering minor league baseball. Kittredge was on that team, had a 6.5 ERA. I can't say I looked at him and said, yeah, that guy's going to pitch in an all-star game later in his career. And he did, to his credit. But he hits the most perfect fungos you will see. So, yeah.
That's fascinating.
Special talent, secret talent.
All right. Well, that's not going to be on our X Factors list, but it is an interesting tidbit. Let's take another quick break and talk about pretty much the rest of what's going on with these teams and some keys to the series.
Okay, AJ, our slab pack ripping continues. Now, you just ripped a card that I think you're actually going to keep.
I am. I'm going to keep it. It's a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. The old, isn't this the famous upper deck one? I believe it is. And yeah, heck yeah, I'm going to keep it because I'm going to get Griffey to sign it. I'm going to get him to send it to me, which you can do, and I'm going to get Griffey to sign it, and it's only going to make it worth more. So I am all in on this card. I am keeping it, and it is one of the coolest cards with the highest turtleneck you've ever seen and the gold chain around his neck.
Graded 9, 1989 upper deck. You get the offer for $179. It's valued at around $199. And you're like, nah, I'm keeping it. But if you wanted to sell it back instantly, you can. It's the beauty of Arena Club. AJ is going to send in and get the physical card sent to him. And you could do the same. 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase can happen for you if you go to arenaclub.com/foul and use the code FOUL.
When it comes to X Factors, I don't know if this is the X Factor. I think it's the best part of this Cubs team, the strongest part of this Cubs team, and I think it will play a huge factor in this series because if the Cubs, it's the reason you think like the Cubs have good pitching is because their defense is so good.
Yes.
And they have the best defensive center fielder in baseball, the best defensive second baseman in baseball, and then one of the best defensive shortstops in baseball, and probably the most underrated defensive third baseman in baseball, because I had no clue Matt Shaw could play this good a defense. I don't think many people did. And then you go around the diamond, there's no real weakness. No. I guess Seiya Suzuki's going to be playing right field. We don't know for sure. I assume that because we never saw Kyle Tucker play before the field before the season ended. We didn't see him get back out there. He can make his mistakes, but other than that, like these are all plus defenders, and I think it just changes the way you look at the Cubs pitching staff. They don't make mistakes; they make plays that most teams just wouldn't. Peter Armstrong's out there making plays look easy that should not be easy, and then he makes plays that no one else can make. And it's remarkable how good he is. That may not be as big of a factor at Wrigley Field as far as Peter Armstrong, but the infield defense is going to be huge. I think it's incredibly important, and I think it may it has the potential to swing this series as long as the Cubs pitchers are missing barrels and not sending balls over the fence.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. I remember I put an 80 on PCA's defense coming out of high school, and when I was ranking him in the prospect handbook, I saw him in Myrtle Beach, and it was beautiful to watch. It really, really was. It was just so graceful. It was amazing. I think for the Padres, what is good for them in that sense is they're also a very reliable, fundamentally sound team. The Cubs are second in baseball in defensive efficiency this year. The Padres are third. So, I mean, you have two really good defenses. The Padres don't beat themselves. And that's one of the things that has been consistent throughout this year. As the offense has gone up and down, as the starting pitching has gone up and down, they play good, clean, fundamentally sound baseball, and that has kept them in a lot of games. They don't shoot themselves in the foot like we see some other teams do. I think for the Padres, the real X factor is, hey, what version of Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish are they going to get? The two other X factors that are going to be key for them are which way is the wind blowing at Wrigley Field. Because if it's blowing out and they can take advantage of some of their power that they've been having recently, they have a chance to put up some runs. If the wind's blowing in and this becomes a low-scoring game, the Padres have had a lot of games this year of 3 runs, 2 runs, 1 run. And while they're very good in 1 and 2 run games, again, at a certain point, your bullpen does wear down, and Mike Shildt doesn't want to have to go to that unit too early. I think the other X factor to watch for here is Freddie Fermin, the Padres catcher. And here's why. Nick Pivetta will get the ball in game 1. Elias Diaz has been his catcher the entire year. Diaz was his starting catcher every single game that Pivetta took the mound this season. Diaz suffered an oblique injury on a swing over the final week in the season, so he's out. So Freddie Fermin will be catching Nick Pivetta for the first time in his life. These two have never paired together in game 1 of the playoff series. And the other part of this, too, is Nick Pivetta is super talented, but going back to his Red Sox days, he can get amped up. He can start overthrowing. It's really, really important to have a catcher that can keep him on tempo, keep him calm. And just because Freddie Fermin has never caught him before, I'm going to be really curious to see that dynamic. That's really, really key, because if Nick Pivetta is off his game, realistically, it's going to be very, very, very hard for the Padres to win this series. They really do need to win with Pivetta on the mound in game 1, because you just can't really trust what Cecil will give you in game 2 and Darvish will give you in game 3 enough to say, oh yeah, they can win back-to-back games with those two starting. You really need to get game 1. So how Freddie Fermin and Nick Pivetta gel is going to be huge for the Padres.
Kyle, I'm going to build off one of your X factors, because I agree that Wrigley Field for both teams is just going to be a character in this series. That it's the sun, it's the wind. Sahadev, when you mentioned Seiya playing right field, I just had flashbacks to him like dropping a ball out in right field. I'm thinking of the Javi Baez basket home run off Johnny Cueto. I think that was game 1 of the 2016 World Series run. Just the Cubby occurrences, stuff like that. And as someone who, I did the West Coast trip in April, and I saw what Petco Park was like. I mean, sellout crowds. Like, you Cubs players were talking about it. Like, you can't find a better atmosphere in the middle of April than what Petco Park was. I think the Cubs avoiding that is nice for the Cubs. And then you just kind of see how, I don't know, Manny Machado seems to enjoy playing the villain at times. I don't think it'll bother him, but just depending on how the Cubs start, like, is the crowd going to really get into it? Is it going to fall silent? Like, how are players who, like Pico Armstrong, who haven't been in the playoffs before, how are they going to respond to that energy? I think that is what will be fun to watch from up in the press box.
For sure. And I think an important point, too, regarding that is this Padres team has been a very different team at home versus on the road. The Padres were 38-43 on the road this year. That's tied, I should say. It's tied for the worst road record of any team in the playoffs, with the Reds, who barely snuck in. And the biggest reason why is that pitching staff. The Padres ERA on the road is a full run higher than it is at home, and that's driven by their starter struggles on the road. Their OPS at home and on the road is actually the exact same. You talk about Petco Park being pitcher friendly, which it is, but they have an identical 711 OPS at home and on the road. It's really about their starting pitching. That's why they lose so many more games on the road, because it's just not as effective. And the other part of it, too, is this is a Padres team that really, really rides the emotional wave. Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., these are guys, when they have Petco Park behind them and everything's rolling, they play with an electricity that is hard to find anywhere else in Major League Baseball, and is a direct reason why the Padres, their winning percentage at home is equivalent to a 104-win team. Their winning percentage on the road is equivalent to a 76-win team. When they don't have that at their backs, the same energy and intensity and focus isn't always there. So I do think that is going to be an X factor here too, is, do the Padres come out with the same energy they would at Petco, because this is a postseason game? Because there's been a lot of times on the road where, they look great at Petco, as they did to finish the season. They won 7 of 8 and looked as good as they have all year, but then they've gone on the road and fallen completely flat. We've seen that movie over and over this season. So I think that is one other big, big X factor here, how the starting pitchers do on the road. And then, of course, do they come out with the same energy and intensity? Just because, frankly, they haven't really done that.
And if Wrigley is blowing in, if the wind is blowing in at Wrigley, this Cubs team is a great base running team. Elias Diaz is someone that could control the running game. Him being out, I think, is a factor there. I don't know enough about Fermin to know how good he is, but the Cubs are that they're a really strong base running team. It was an emphasis in the offseason. They've won games because of it. Early in the season, they took advantage of it because it was Wrigley was just death to fly balls, and they had to. And the right people have to get on base. Pico Armstrong has to get on base. Nico Horner needs to get on base to take advantage of those base running skills that they have. But this is a good team that can change the game, change an inning because they swipe a bag or they screw up the other team's defense because they can't get that out that they should have gotten because someone hustled. They've changed a lot of games and they've won a lot of games because of that. We'll see if it's a factor. I think if the wind is blowing in, they'll try to make it a factor because it's hard to. I mean, this is a slugging team too. So if the wind is blowing in, they have to manufacture. They have to find a way to score runs because the long ball will be hard at Wrigley. Wrigley's just such a huge factor. Patrick, you're so right. It's going to. We're going to go to the park on Tuesday and look at the flags. It's the first thing I always do as I'm walking to the ballpark because it tells me so much about that day. It's just a huge factor, probably bigger than I can't think of a bigger factor, at least wind wise in baseball. Coors Field obviously changes games, but the wind just doesn't impact games like that now that Candlestick's gone. So it just such a huge part of the game. All right, I think we're good there. Does anyone have anything else they want to add? Should we give predictions here? I'll give my prediction. I'm saying Cubs in 3. I think we're gonna keep working, Patrick. I could see the grumpiness on your face.
I'm playing this both. I'm saving material in case there's a Brewers game, a Brewers series. So I'm all set for that. Driving to Milwaukee Cubs series would be fun, but I don't know the way Kyle's talking about the Padres bullpen.
It's scary. It is scary.
That I think was great for our listeners to kind of brace themselves for that game over show that Kyle mentioned.
Yeah, but I need to correct myself. Padres are 63-5 when leading after 6, not 68-5. So still ridiculous.
It's still scary.
Yeah. So wait, Patrick, what is your prediction? Are you going out?
I'll go with Padres to be the contrarian.
Okay. How many?
But not with any sort of confidence. I think it goes 3. And I just in kind of listening to you and talking to other people, I feel like all of these teams were sort of dragging towards the finish line. I don't think anyone's making any predictions with any confidence. I think a lot of people are just tired of the teams that they're working for, covering, watching as fans. It's just kind of such a long season, such a grind. No one really separated themselves, putting the Dodgers in that category. I don't think the Brewers scare anyone. The Phillies are a little, not quite at full strength. So, any of these predictions, we have to do these for the Athletic as well. I think everyone's just sort of checking a box and has no idea what's going to happen.
I don't. I'm with you in that. I go back and forth on this series so much because I can see a viable scenario where every potential outcome, I could see that. Padres sweep, Padres in 3, Cubs sweep, Cubs in 3. All of those are very realistic to me. I think these are two very evenly matched teams that do a lot of the same things well. You mentioned the defense, base running, fundamentally sound. Padres fans are going to hate me for this. I just have a hard time. I've seen this movie too many times where the Padres look great at home and they just fall completely flat on the road. And also, I have a hard time saying, yes, I trust Dylan Cease and potentially Yu Darvish to give the Padres good road starts on back-to-back days. I just have a hard time pulling the trigger on that. And so for that reason, I'm going to go Cubs in 3. Again, I wouldn't say if the Padres win, I would call it an upset. I know the Cubs, the higher seed, they have more wins. They're at home. If the Reds beat the Dodgers, that is a massive upset. I just don't see a scenario when that happens. It would shock me. If the Padres beat the Cubs, it wouldn't shock me. I think it's very viable. I've just seen this movie too many times of Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish on the road, getting blown up, giving up 6 or 7 runs in the first 3 innings. And this Padres offense, while we talked about some of their guys are, kind of hitting their stride, this offense is not explosive enough to come back from those 6-7 run deficits. They need to keep games within a run or two to really have a chance to come back. So that's why I'm going Cubs in 3. Padres track record on the road and Cease and Darvish's struggles.
I agree that I have no clue what's going to happen. It's really hard to predict this one. It's very evenly matched. All right. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. This is Northside Territory with Friars Territory. You can catch our work, Patrick and my work at The Athletic. Make sure to subscribe, rate, review both podcasts, subscribe to the YouTube channels. Appreciate everyone listening. Thanks, everyone. Take care.